Morning, everyone. My absolute privilege to be here this morning, talking with you about cybersecurity. You know, one of the simplest analogies I can think of in terms of cybersecurity was really just now's call. Now, imagine if we had to talk about something that was really confidential with Emily just now. Imagine if she told us something that no one else knew. Now, the idea, of course, is that none of us in this room are supposed to blog about it, put it on Facebook, tell our friends, or even talk about it after today. How realistic is that proposition? Can we control every single one of us in this room? Imagine if all of us are from the same organization. We could probably try, but we won't be successful. But the truth is, even in this room, not every one of us are from the YTL group. Imagine also, someone could just be listening at the door. Or if we were to take things a bit further, if we really wanted to capture some of this confidential information, something could have been planted in this computer. In a sense that I think yesterday there was supposed to be some rehearsals. If I really needed to capture something, and this was confidential to Google, one of the biggest things that's going to happen in the world, make sure I put something here, record everything that's going to happen. Other thing I could do, steal the video after this. Or in fact, I could put something in there right now, and while it's recording, it's going to be recording it somewhere else. But in essence, right, what I'm talking about is that this is really the challenge we have in security and in cybersecurity today. We have vendors that's going to be working with us, walking in our offices. We connect to different people in our computers, in our networks. How do we make sure all of these things are working the way they're supposed to be, and they're not doing things which perhaps is going to leak out our information or cause us harm in one way or another? So just now, I think we talked about really some fantastic areas of technology. And I think we are seeing it today that as we move forward, the world is going to be pretty much fully connected. Every car that you see is going to be connected to the internet. Every device that we have is going to be connected to the internet. Our phones are connected. Our phones understand where's our home. You don't need to key in your home address, by the way. You know, when you go home, the phone knows you've reached home. Our devices, our projector, in the future, our projector will understand when it needs to change its bulb. It will issue a message to the manufacturer or whoever you bought it from, and they can come and replace that bulb immediately. All our devices will understand and know what to do. Now, one of the scary examples, if you think about it just now, right? You have that speaker from Amazon as well as Google, and you can just talk to it to activate it, you know. Those of us who have iPhone, right? For example, if you want to activate Siri, and you turn Siri on to listening mode, you just have to say, "Hey Siri," and it will understand. But how does it know when to listen to "Hey Siri"? How does it know? The truth is, it's always listening. It's always listening for your keywords. Now imagine that. It's always listening what happens around it. Potentially, if I take over some of these devices, I can listen to everything that goes on. Are the people who make these devices listening to everything that's going on? We don't know. But to understand language better, to understand how to deal with things like sound interference, speech, and so forth, it's always listening, always trying to learn more. And that's the future that we have, in a sense that everything is going to be connected to the internet. Some of the key examples, of course, that we know of, I think in Malaysia, we are really good at using Waze, right? I was in a trip to Australia recently this year, and I tried to use Waze, fantastic at maps. But I found that not many people reported anything. You know, Malaysians, right? Police reported a hit. We're really good at that, right? Hey, slow down, man. Even if you know where you're going, we still use Waze. Police reported a hit, accident reported a hit, road construction, things like that. But when I was in Australia, right, by the way, I hardly got a single report. It just told me where to go, and suddenly there was a traffic jam, it doesn't tell me. Roadworks, it doesn't tell me. Because not many people uploaded that information. And it depends a lot on social uploading. Now, the other one, of course, I put the example of BMW, but many of the cars available today, they understand when the car needs servicing. And once they understand when your car needs servicing, right, it can actually send a signal. For BMW, I think that signal goes to Germany. So it actually makes an overseas call for you, right? But it sends that signal to book you a service appointment. It books a service appointment for you because it knows when it needs to be serviced. And of course, then we have the third part. We talked a bit about autonomous vehicles and our neighboring country in Singapore. We know that autonomous buses is one of the things they're looking at as well for transportation. Now, all of this sounds fantastic, and perhaps I'm here to do maybe a bit of the negative stuff, tell you a bit about what are some of the risks and the problems associated. And I just want to bring you two examples if we were to talk about the automotive industry. The first one, of course, is that it has been demonstrated that we can hack a car. We can actually hack a car. You can actually just irritate the driver, by the way, change the air conditioning, keep swapping the radio channels, force the guy to listen to something he doesn't want to listen to. But you can do more. You can actually stop the car. And we know that if you stop the car at the wrong time, incredibly, there's going to be a lot of problems. And of course, potential loss of life. What are the other things? Of course, if you see on the right, GPS. We're so used to our GPS and we're so trusting of it. There are many cases in the world where people have gone, potentially, where they shouldn't be going. And you see this example here. This particular person basically drove into a lake. Now, it sounds really funny, right? But I share with you one of my personal experience. I was going to play golf. This was a couple of years ago. I was going to play golf with my friend in Malacca. We were not exactly sure where the course was. We've been there before. But so we relied on my car's GPS. And so after the toll plaza, he said, I think it's on the left. I said, no, it's on the right because the GPS says turn right. So I said, let's trust the GPS, and we kept going. Now we went, I think, for about another half an hour past the toll. It brought me through all these strange housing areas and lanes and things like that. I thought it's okay, because for example, like Waze, right? It knows how to sneak you through all those back lanes to avoid all the traffic, right? Finally, it asked me to turn in between a bunch of terrace houses in a back lane, and I reached a padang. Now, when I reached a padang, it says, you have reached your destination. I thought, maybe they wanted to build a golf course here, but for some reason, the developer changed their mind and built it the other side. But I think one lesson that we need to learn here is that technology, they've shown that they can actually make cars drive by themselves. But one of the other things that hackers have shown is that you can divert ships by altering the GPS signals. You can make vehicles go where they don't want to go. And this, of course, poses a huge risk to us today. If we take a simpler thing, nowadays all of us have digital video recorders probably in our homes, IP-connected CCTVs. Now, all these devices have computing power. And the computing power that these devices have, by the way, are significantly more than maybe our first IBM PC or Apple computer that we used to have. Those of us who remember the day of floppy disks, right? Today, our watch, our phone is so much more powerful than those devices or PCs we had back then with the floppy disk. The problem is that criminals exploit this. What happened sometime this year is that a large-scale denial of service attack was done. and it pretty much took down internet services in the US as well as large portions of Europe. How was it done? It's called by researchers as the Mirai botnet. And a botnet is pretty much devices that are controlled by other people. But guess what devices they control? They primarily control CCTVs, digital video recorders. The problem was, of course, one of the key factors is that some of the administrative or super user passwords in some of these devices are hard-coded to the manufacturer. In other words, it can't really be changed. The hacker found out they control a large number of these devices, and they use these devices pretty much to just spam traffic or flood traffic to block out the internet for you. Just imagine if we wanted to come here today, we send a whole bunch of people just to flood the ballroom, stand around. You can't make yourself through and come into this hall. That, in essence, is technology denial of service, blocking you from what services that you actually need. But we always think about, right, is that are attacks and is cybersecurity something that only hits people, say in banking, in financial, where we have something to steal, where we have a lot of money? You know, I meet a lot of clients in Malaysia and even around the region. And sometimes I meet clients who tell me, right, that there's actually nothing important for them to steal. I have nothing in my organization that people will be interested in breaking in for. I have nothing in my organization that people will want to hack me. Unfortunately, security doesn't work like that, or hackers and attackers don't work like that. If you look at the statistics of these attacks, you will see that every industry can potentially come under attack, and every industry does come under attack. Hospitality, mining, manufacturing, agriculture. All these are listed in terms of cyber attacks that has happened before. Now, why does this happen? Really, there are two key factors at play. The first factor is that we need to understand is that attackers, basically, there are two types. The first type of attacker, of course, looks at you very specifically. I want to attack you because you are very important to me. I want to attack you because you are a significant target. You are maybe YTL Corporation. You're very important. I want to attack you. I spend my time to attack you. That is maybe that 20, 30%. Very skilled, very capable. But a large portion of all cyber attacks are more the case of I will attack anyone. Imagine that we're in our housing area back home. There are basically people who are walking around your housing area all the time, checking whether or not you've locked your main door. Have I closed my window? Is there a way in from my roof? Can I jump in through your neighbor? Did you leave your car door open? Did you open your back kitchen door? There are people walking around all the time, and there are millions of people observing you, looking at your house, looking at things to steal. That is the easiest analogy I can give you as far as systems on the internet. There are hacking tools that are going around scanning systems, and they scan every system. And there are millions of these tools that continuously scan to find where there's a part and a potential to break in. And if they can break in, they will do so. Now, the other factor that I said also is that sometimes when you are not the primary target, you will be compromised just to see where potentially in the future you may become more important. Or sometimes we may attack you, or the hackers may attack you, because of somebody that you connect to. You are known as an intermediary target. So if I wanted to break in, say to the central bank, to Bank Negara, and if I come in through the public internet, it's probably very hard to break in, even for skilled hackers, because we really need to block that. But who does Bank Negara connect to? Who would Bank Negara connect to? Primarily. Banks, right? If I were to take over one of the banks, I would have a channel into Bank Negara that people would observe less. Now take it the other step. Banks are not easy to break into as well. But who do banks deal with? We have consultants, we have auditors, we have vendors, various sort of people. And they can take one step into that bank and then take another step into the central bank. So sometimes you may be compromised not because you are the main target, but you are along the chain of being targeted. So banking and financial services, of course, we know the money is there. The money is there and they will be targeted. Some of the biggest things that happened, of course, relates to the Bangladesh Bank. Some of us may have heard before. And that's the Bangladesh Central Bank. And they lost $81 million. The story behind this, if you read this in detail, actually, is that they almost lost $1 billion, right? They almost lost a larger amount. And the reason they didn't do that is because the hackers were not good at spelling in English. So they issued a fund transfer, and the New York bank looked at it, and there appeared to be a typo in the transfer. And because there was an English typo in the transfer, the New York bank asked for confirmation. Do you really want to do this transfer? And the hackers were found out. But they successfully stole 81 million through the SWIFT network. And the SWIFT network, for those of us who know in banking, is pretty much a closed private network between banks. And this closed private network between banks is supposed to be secure, and by it's closed. In essence, people from outside don't get in. More recently, of course, you hear that Russia's central bank has been hit as well for something like $30 million. Interestingly, I think it's the beginning of the month, Russia actually came out to say that foreign people are out to destabilize our banking industry. Closer to home, I think some of us have seen this news actually in the Star. Criminals and hackers targeting an ATM network, and Malaysia being one of them. And ATMs can be compromised in a number of ways. And if you remember, I think sometime last year, a large number of banks, well, I wouldn't say a large number, a number of banks, but a large number of ATMs were compromised. Money was stolen from these ATMs. Do you know why? There was actually a master key for the top cover of the ATM. Now, initially, you didn't think that opening the top cover has any problems because we need to protect the bottom, right, where all the cash is loaded. Unfortunately, by allowing people to open the top cover, people could load specific software to attack the ATM, and as a result, make the ATM spit out cash. More scary, of course, it's been noted that security researchers, some of them have been able to attack specific ATMs remotely. In other words, they don't need to break the ATM system, they just need to catch the plug and issue commands for it to spit out money. The next time you go to a shopping center, look at the ATM, look at the back. You will see all the cables there, by the way. And almost anyone can plug in and do anything that they like. And if you think about it, right, ATMs are not built with some super sophisticated software. Most ATMs today are running Windows XP. We remember Windows XP quite a while ago. Most ATMs run this software. But it's not just banking industry that's really facing the challenge. And there are many stories I can tell you, but I just wanted to focus on a few. And really, industrial control systems and critical infrastructure is probably the next wave where hackers have been attacking and will focus their energies moving forward. Think about a water treatment plant. What can you do by hacking a water treatment plant? Well, one of the things actually, for example, you can alter things like the chlorine mix. You can potentially poison people by altering some of the formulas in a water treatment plant. And the truth is that more and more of these facilities are going to become online or are already online and potentially can be exploited The other one, of course, in Ukraine. In Ukraine last year, hackers demonstrated the ability to take down the power grid. It wasn't for too long a period, but in essence, you can take down a country by hacking and crippling their critical infrastructure. Now, some of this, of course, if you think about it, hacking maybe is causing a disturbance, is causing a nuisance. But one of the things that actually happen for critical infrastructure actually is also physical damage. Those of us who run plants, manufacturing facilities, and so forth, you will know that even something as simple as turning off and turning on can't be something like our light switch. If we turn off our plant, it's not necessarily I can just turn it on. And continuously issuing something like an off, on, off, on, off, on can actually physically destroy some of the machinery that we have. And this actually happened at a steel mill in Germany. So let me wrap up, I think, about how we can actually build resilience in cybersecurity. And I want to just leave you with 3 simple points that you can take home from there. And really a 3-step approach. And this 3-step approach, think of it like anything else. First of all, we need to understand where we're at. What is the state we're at? It's no point, denying that we don't have a problem, or it's no point saying that no one tries to attack us. Where are we at? What are our strengths? But also, what are our weaknesses? From there, being able then to develop a plan, implement, and execute it. And let me share a bit about tips about some of these areas. Now, in terms of understanding where we're at today, one of the best ways to do so is to get some sort of framework. I show you the one here from EY, but there are many publicly available ones. A very good one, of course, is the one done by the US NIST, the Cybersecurity Framework. Now, the benefits of a framework really is that it allows you to put security into a box. Now, all the time we are taught, right, thinking out of the box is the best thing to do. But sometimes thinking out of the box, we don't know where to start. So putting security into a box allows us to focus our efforts, to understand what we need to do. So using a framework gives you that benefit. The second part is really developing our strategy. And developing our strategy, we need to understand who may want our information. Who wants potentially to be on that call with Emily to listen what she can hear? What are they going to do about that information? How are they going to steal it? Are they going to put something in the machine? Are they going to put somebody here in the audience who maybe shouldn't be here? Are they just going to, say, for example, steal the recording of this whole event? How are they going to do it? And understanding how is the key to protecting ourselves. We need to understand how so that we can build defenses around that how. And I want to share with you something which I'll talk a bit more about in a workshop if you join me later this afternoon. But we also need to separate our efforts in security to prevention, detection, and response. Think of it in 3 simple areas: prevention, detection, and response. Now, most of the world of IT, we have spent all in prevention. We have spent on blocking and locking our doors. We have not spent enough on checking what are we doing inside here. We've not spent that. And we've not spent, and we have spent actually even less on if we find somebody in here, or if we find some piece of technology in here that's doing something it's not supposed to be doing, what are we going to do about it? How do we react? So we spend on prevention, we spend less on detection, we've hardly spent anything on response. And this is true industry-wide. And we need to relook at that. Because if you look at that chart on the right, apologize, it's a bit small. But for the really expert hackers, think about it like the cat burglar. You can't stop him. You need to have your motion sensor in the house. You need to have that guy trigger something that I'm going to react, because he will break through your front door. He will know how to come through with that key. He will know how to come through the roof. They will be able to do it. And we need to focus more on identifying when they come in and what we're going to do about it from there. The last part, I think, just execute, monitor, improve. Don't be afraid of changing. As Richard says, really, technology just moves so fast. I think some of the things that they show, really incredible, exciting, but to be honest, it's also pretty scary, right? It's pretty scary where some of the technology is going today. So let me summarize in 3 key points. The first point really is that everyone can and everyone will be a target. It's not because maybe I know your home address or so forth. People go around scanning systems to attack all the time. The second key point is that if you don't know whether you've been hit by a security incident, or if you can tell me that you've never detected a security incident across the last 6 months or 1 year, most likely you don't know that something has already happened. The truth is that every one of our organizations will be faced with some sort of either minor to major security incident. And if you don't see it at all, it means our detection capabilities are not strong enough. The last and final point, as I mentioned a bit earlier, if we think about security in 3 steps, don't forget about the fact that we need to beef up more on detection, and the last part, really focus more on response, because sometimes it's really just about contingency planning and something will go wrong. One of the easiest examples I can give you today is in your organizations, your senior management and your board. Just do a desktop simulation. Ask yourself this simple question. If I get hit by a cyber attack today, what am I going to do? Do you know that answer? Who do I call? What is my first response? Do I need to get legal involved? Do I need to tell my customers? When should I do so? Do I need to get someone to come in and analyze the system? What other damage has been done? All these things can be thought of upfront so that when it actually happens, and it will happen, you can actually reduce that time and that overall impact to your organization. So with that, I'd like to close. Thank you very much.